Okay. Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And with me today, I've got Manoj Gupta, and we're going to be talking about his book, The Consciouspreneur, A Journey to Find the Infinite Power Within You. Manu, where can people find you?
Where can you find me? That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm available, in this digital world, anywhere in the social media, be it on LinkedIn, be it on Instagram, be it on YouTube. And there are my websites, which is manojgupta.com as well as consciouspreneur.net. So you can just Google it, Consciouspreneur or myself, and should not be difficult to find me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the book. Really enjoyed it. And it's certainly a very different take on the classic business book. You describe the Consciouspreneur as a journey inward as much as a business framework. What first made you realize that external success without inner alignment was unsustainable?
See, when I was growing up in my corporate ladder, what I found was that this traditional definition of success, has a lot to in terms of the burnout, in terms of the comparison, in terms of the relative reality or anxiety aspect of it. And what I realized that I was burning candles from both sides actually. And while I was getting titles and awards and on papers looked to be very successful, but somewhere inside me there was a deep void of, which was asking, is this it? And at some point of time, when I started looking or reflecting deep, I started to find an answer that, hey, in the process of this professional pursuit, I'm actually missing out on my personal growth. I'm missing out my social connections, and I'm missing out my spiritual well-being. So I'm asking three, so just focusing on one is basically leaving aside my three other important aspects of life, which all of us want to balance. And that's where was the aha moment for me to understand that external success uh, ha- has to be along with the inner alignment or fulfillment, whatever you want to say as a word. And actually that's became the consciouspreneur over a period of time, which actually brings about these four aspects of life, that is personal, professional, social, and spiritual, onto a common tandem of the balance. Yeah.
Many leaders hear the word consciousness and think it's abstract or spiritual. How do you find conscious leadership in a way that's practical and commercially relevant?
Well, uh, I would put in a simple way, consciousness, right, is in the simple language is awareness in high definition mode. Okay. So we all know about the HD camera, 4K camera, and so on and so forth, right? So awareness in HD is a simple definition of consciousness, because in business terms, if I put it, when you are conscious, when you are highly aware, then you see the things very clearly. At that time, you see your customers. At that time, you see the team. At the time, you can clearly see your biases. Okay. And when I say clearly see, I'm actually meaning over here, you see the unseen, you hear the unsaid. And that's what is a big commercial aspect of it, not the abstract or any definition of philosophy I'm talking about. Because an unconscious leader can make decisions which can be fast but expensive. But a conscious leader then look at the data, hears their intuitive aspect, and then come out with decision which is accurate, which is cutting all the noises. And that's where the difference, and that's where I call it a commercial advantage, nothing with respect to abstract or spiritual here.
Your book blends Vedic wisdom, neuroscience, and business strategy. What surprised you most when you saw that these worlds actually reinforce each other?
Very interesting question. See, uh, The beautiful convergence among the three was a big surprise to me, and rather revelation, let me put it like this. And if I do a double click on it, Tim, um, see, neuroscience, what we talk about the different aspects of brain. Okay. If you talk about cerebrum, and if I specifically go into simple language, PFC or prefrontal cortex,
Mm.
right, where we talk about what? Decision making, judgment, reasoning, and so on and so forth. And attached to it is your limbic system, which your emotional side of the brain, right?
Yeah.
We talk about amygdala anxiety very popularly as a word, or hippocampus, or hypothalamus, and so on and so forth. So if you look at these two, and the regulation of these two in neuroscience is heavily being spoken about. If you look the Vedic science, right, this in the Vedic science language of Panchakosha comes at layer number 4 and layer number 3. So layer number 4 is the intellectual layer, which talks about exactly the same thing, which is reasoning, judgment, and decision making. Layer number 3, which is called about the Manomaya Kosha. Okay. So fourth layer is Vigyan Maya, and third layer is Manomaya. And Manomaya is actually all talking about the emotional layer of your human being. Okay. And if you look from the business perspective, you talked about the three. If you look from the business or the strategy perspective, what is the strategy we look for? Short term profits and long term growth, non negotiable, right? The second aspect which we look at is all about what are my propositions or offering, and what is my go to market strategy. Okay. In both the cases, you actually look at what, why, how, that is logical aspect of it. Okay. And in that, where are my people, where are my customers, that is emotional resilience or emotional wavelength matching. So if you see the beautiful convergence, all the three with Vedic science, neuroscience, and strategy, business strategy, converge so beautifully. And that's what actually was something which was a revelation actually when
Mm. Yeah, I know, I know. I mean, if you'd said me before, I wouldn't have said. I just didn't think it would happen.
I
You argue that burnout isn't a failure of resilience, but a failure of awareness. What signals should leaders be paying attention to before burnout shows up?
see, as I said, awareness a bit before, very simple language is is something where you visualize things in high definition mode. Yeah. So most of the leaders or most people think that burnout happens when you have overworked yourself, or where you are spending too much time beyond your working hours. In my language, no. The burnout happens when you are actually out of your alignment. When you are working somewhere where you do not like it. And there are two layers of yourself. One is the layer of your values and belief system, right? And the second is your layer of your liking, hobbies, passion. Now, if the misalignment of what you're working upon is with both layers, that's where the fatigue happens. That's where the misalignment happens, and that's where the burnout happens. Now, with regards to the signs, right? It is very similar to when you on your car dashboard gets that blinking sign that oil level is low, or blah thing is having a issue. So stress actually is being very misconstrued in modern world. I call it not as enemy or unwanted guest. Actually, I call stress one of your teacher, because stress is something which is giving you signal. Okay, hey, something is wrong. It is a dashboard. Okay. So when there is misalignment in terms of what you're working upon and you're feeling a burnout, you start getting those signals. And signals are like, hey, I'm feeling fatigue. Hey, I'm feeling something which is the fuzzy aspect. I'm feeling something which I'm getting irritated in small things kind of like. And when you start getting that, you must pay attention to that, because if you do not, then you are accumulating that. And if you are, it is very similar, again I'll go, if you are ignoring that warning sign on the dashboard for a prolonged period, the car will come to a standstill. And that exactly happens with your physical body, which actually is carrying your inner personality, right, to the outer world. So that's what I would say in terms of the signs and to pay attention to those signs, Tim.
From your experience, what unconscious habits or belief systems most commonly limit founders and CEOs as their businesses scale?
You'll have to repeat the question for me to understand a bit
Okay.
more.
From your experience,
Mhm.
what unconscious habits or belief systems most commonly limit founders and CEOs as their businesses scale?
All right, I got it. Yeah, this is something which is one of my favorites because as we were growing up as an organization, or the hero complex, I would simply put it, the hero complex is one of the biggest bottleneck because the founders or many a times leaders who are growing up feels that they are the only ones who can resolve any issues or problems faster or better than anyone. But as this scale of your business grows, then the same people become the bottleneck in terms of the decision making, in terms of too many things on their plate. And at that time, instead of me calling them as a leader, I call them firefighters or firemen, right? And that's the big difference. And for you to be leader in those cases, one needs to take a step back, trust the system, and empower people if you really want to grow. And I've seen both kinds of leaders. I've experienced myself as a part of this journey. So hero complex is one thing which one should avoid if they want to scale and be successful, Tim.
Can you share an example of a leader or organization that increased profitability by being more conscious, not less commercially driven?
Hmm. Mm, One organization which certainly comes on top of my head, and it's a global giant, Salesforce. Salesforce says 111 is something which latches to mine and most of the people's mind. What was that 111? 1% of the founding equity, 1% of the product, and 1% of the time. At the time before, means they founded the organization, at that time the founder allocated these, saying that 1% of my equity, 1% of the employee's time, and 1% of product will go for the good causes. Now let's translate this into numbers. Salesforce started back in 99, right? Today its valuation is somewhere between 60 to 70 billion. Now, in terms of numbers, they have contributed over 700 million for the good cause. In terms of the number of hours, because they have got every employee has 1 week off, paid off for the voluntary activities. It has contributed over 10 million hours, right? In the good causes. Okay. In terms of the product, because Salesforce offers either the free or a very subsidized cost, licenses to non-profit or to schools, provided they clear the eligibility criteria. They have over 50,000 institutions running on their products. So if you see, these are the conscious organization, and this is a substantial, right, commercial impact. And in fact, Salesforce, when they got so much um, tangible, impact of this, they started Pledge One. If you Google it, you will find that, and that Pledge 1% for the startup became a movement. There were, as of today, there are, I think, about 20,000 plus organizations who have adopted this framework, and which includes the big wigs likes of DocuSign, right? Which has now become a very big, conglomerate. So I would, on top of my head, Salesforce certainly stands out as a part of this, Tim.
Decision making is a constant pressure for leaders. How does operating from awareness rather than ego change the quality and speed of decisions?
Ah, so if I put it, so ego-based decisions are more about proving yourself right, whereas awareness-based decisions are more about proving yourself to be accurate and authentic, right? So you see, while there is a subtle but big difference in terms of. So ego based are more about I want to be right. Awareness is all about I want to be accurate and authentic. Now, what happens is, in case of ego, because it is largely focused upon the leader's image, protecting the leader's image, right? And hence, decision can be fast, decision can be whatever fear driven, and so on and so forth, or ego driven. But in case of awareness driven decisions, the leaders look at the data, they analyze data, they also uh, they consult with their intuitive power, their inner power, and then want to take, or they go with a decision which actually cuts the mind noise in their mind zone or mind space, that hey, if I take this decision, what would world speak about, or do I need to be worried about, hey, why did I take this decision? So that's the very big difference which I see between the ego driven vis-a-vis awareness driven decision leaders.
For leaders running high growth businesses right now, what is one daily or weekly practice that can create the biggest shift in clarity and performance?
I simply say, very simple thing, 2 minutes rule, right? Before you enter into any meeting, follow these three steps which I have learned over a period of time. The day I found the impact, I have never gone back onto that. The three-step process is pause, breathe, and just set your intent. Pause, breathe, and set your intent. And the intent is, am I entering into this meeting in the position of authority, or am I entering into this meeting from the position of awareness? Okay. See, in both the cases, your authority is intact. But in the second zone, when you are entering with the position of awareness, you are open to listen. And your authority is even much more looked upon, because you are listening to, and people anyway knows your title, right? So this is something which I always guide and advise to, when I have been in the corporate world, to my all VPs, SVPs, and executive vice presidents and senior directors. But even in current scale of things, when I'm advising or guiding the entrepreneurs or senior executives, or CXOs, this is one thing which I tell to all of them: okay, guys, your authority will actually grow if you just enter into any meeting with the position of awareness rather than position of authority.
So that's pause, breathe, and being aware.
Yes. Pause, breathe, and set your intent.
Set your intent. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Many organizations talk about purpose but struggle to operationalize it. How does a conscious leader translate purpose into culture and metrics into results?
It has to be the game of hardwiring, right? Marketing statement needs to move into more of executional or operationalizing aspect. The difference is, one aspect is what, the second aspect is how. So conscious leaders largely get into a consultative mode and hardwire some of these things to make sure they are linked to executives incentives or bonuses. Let me take an example. Unilever, I think couple of years back or so, they came up that all executive bonuses will be aligned with sustainability goals, and they had about 15 to 25% of the executives bonuses were linked to that. Okay. In my previous organization where I implemented this, there was issues lot with respect to attrition and ENPS, employee net promoter score. Okay. I sat down with my leadership team and said that, "Okay, guys, attrition and ENPS is not just HR issue. You all are business leaders, you all are managing or running the business units as a vice presidents or senior vice presidents, but you cannot leave this as a HR responsibility." And what we implemented in all of the guys incentive system, I said, in addition to the deal size and profit size of the deal, so size of the deal and the profitability of deal, I also want that how many people in your leadership team, direct reportees and reportees minus one, are leaving from your team. And the same should cascade below. The moment we introduce that into the incentive or the bonus structure of all the guys, we found a very different behavior. We found a very different change. Attrition came down significantly, and just after a year, an employee net promoter score grew up significantly. So if you hardwire, right, them into the incentives and bonuses of executives, but it has to be, when you use the word conscious, it has to be a conscious approach where there is a buy-in, and buy-in will not be easy. Why would it's the law of inertia? Why would I want to change? But that is something which you have to nudge, push, and bring that larger aspect of things, and things change.
Manu, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your book, The Consciouspreneur, A Journey to Find the Infinite Power Within You. If I wanted to buy a copy of this, where can I get one from?
It's available on all Amazon platforms globally. So you can buy in any geography the book. So book is available, and I would want you to not only purchase it but read it and come back to me as a what have you learned from this, because this is a book which has come out with my 20 years of deep research and personal reflection, which is around the Vedic science as well as the contemporary modern management and wisdom.
And where can we find more information about you?
Simple is manojgupta.com, my website, which has all the social media handles, etc. There. But any social media handle, be it Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Quora, wherever you want to, or consciouspreneur.net, that's a platform we have created. Okay, so you do a Google of Consciouspreneur, you do a Google for myself, you will find threads which can lead you to any of the places, Tim.
Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your expertise and wisdom. Thank you.